Hey, I'm Eli.
And I'm Aiden. We're ex husbands, co parents, and proud dads to two beautiful daughters.
Join us as we navigate dating after divorce, co-parenting, and redefining our relationship as friends.
Because even as exes, we're still better together apart.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Better Together Apart. Hi, Aiden.
Hey Eli, how's it going?
I'm pretty good. Today we're talking about a topic that is actually very important to talk about because when you are dating later in life, when you're more mature, you've had some big relationships, you've met a lot of guys, and you are kind of, I know what I want, I know what kind of person I need, and I'm not going to compromise anymore. When you're in your late 30s, early 40s, you already know who you are.
What
You're
about
saying to yourself,
late 40s?
late
Same?
40s, 50s, whatever.
Okay, just checking.
Yeah, so I think people these days are more open to have long distance relationships
Okay.
because think about it. If I live in a city
Mhm.
that there are not a lot of gays out there, or even if there are, I haven't really found the right person for me.
Just 1 second, I have to ask you something. Are you saying that there are not enough gays in Miami?
I'm saying in the world, in
Okay.
different cities.
Okay. No,
Okay.
I'm just fucking with you.
So in Miami, of course, you have a lot, but you can also say the Miami vibe or the Miami crowd is not really what I'm looking for as well. So even if it's in a city that you have a lot of gays, you might find yourself covering all the gays that are
That's actually
potentially.
a good point because you're expanding on what you're saying. You're saying if you live in a small town, that's like one option. Then you need to explore other places. But you're also saying maybe you live in a big town, but the town has a vibe of not settling down, being open or being free or things like that. So that's another good reason to look elsewhere.
Yeah. So I think what people are now focusing more is finding the right person, regardless of where they live.
Okay.
And that's how many gays find themselves open to have long distance relationships
Mhm.
and explore that route. And if they find the right person for them that they think, oh my God, this is my person, we're perfect for each other, we have the same kind of values, we see the future in the same way, we should give it a try.
So my and maybe that's a question to ask towards the end of the session today. But do you think that those people that are open for a long term, sorry, for a long distance relationship, those people are eventually looking to be together, or they don't have that in mind. They are setting up an arrangement that is long distance, and they are content with just keeping it long distance, and that's it.
I think there are those kind of people as well, but I think that regardless of that, there are certain things you need to do when you're in a long distance relationship that can make it work. And in some cases, it won't work if you're not doing certain things. And we actually both were in long distance relationship. I was in a long distance relationship for a while. You were in a long distance relationship for a while. So we both had the experience of having a long distance relationship. So I think it would be interesting for us to discuss what worked for us, what did not work for us, and also was the long distance the reason that we eventually broke up from those people?
Right. Um, it's funny that both of us has that experiences. Actually, we had multiple long this what's gonna happen eventually, long distance relationships. We both have multiple long distance relationships, and it's crazy that we also have knowledge about that. I'm like just like thinking out loud about it.
We actually had them at the same time.
Correct.
When you started your long distance relationship, I started my long distance relationship, I think like 2 3 weeks afterwards.
So you were looking also to mimic my relationship?
No, it happened by accident. I
Oh,
met the
accident?
yeah, I met that person while I was at a different city in the states, in a different state.
Wait. So I started the long distance relationship, and you decided to travel and look for another person?
I travel for work all the
Oh,
time,
okay, I see.
and I did not look back then. I did not look for a relationship at all.
Oh, yeah.
But I just accidentally met him, and we clicked, and it felt like something. Wow, this is kind of the person that I was looking for.
Okay, so if I'm gonna be on a throuple now, are you gonna also be on a throuple?
No,
Okay.
that will never happen. I can assure you.
Eli, Eli,
I don't have any problem with thruples, but they're not for me.
Eli, never say never.
That's also true. I agree with
Never say never.
that. Okay.
You may find yourself, in a throuple. It could happen.
I actually think that when you are in a co-parenting situation, and let's say you have 1 week on, 1 week off with your kids, a long distance relationship can actually work very well because during your week with your kids, you're home with the kids, and then the other week that you're off kids duty, you can just go to your long distance partner
Right.
and be with them the whole week and just focus on the
And
relationship.
guess what? That's exactly what we did.
That's exactly what we did. So we
Okay.
did basically 1 week you, 1 week me. I was 1 week at home, then 1 week at my boyfriend back then, and then you did the same with your boyfriend.
So what happened back then was that we hardly stayed together at the house.
Yeah, I barely saw you that time.
Yeah.
I barely saw you that time.
We had high fives at the
Yeah.
airport, and
Yeah, we kind of we switch shifts now.
yeah,
It's like okay, now you take this. That's it.
which is the essence, by the way, of nesting.
Yeah.
So nesting, for for to align everyone with that term, is when the kids are uh, stayed are staying in the house, and the parents are coming and going. For example, in our case, 1 week you came and stayed here in the house, and the other week I came.
So it's one house. The kids don't change any environment. They stay in
Right.
the same place, and just the ones who are switching are the parents. So I think that worked pretty well for us. But now let's talk about the pros and the cons that a long distance relationship has basically. So I can start with let's start with the pros. Let's start with the pros. I can tell you a few things that I liked about it. First of all, when I was with my boyfriend back then, I was with him 24/7 basically. We lived together, which actually for some people that's a con because some people they like their space and they like dating, you know, casually see each other 3 4 times a week, maybe less than that. But I liked it that we had condensed time together and it was like living together. And I actually saw my boyfriend more than I would see anyone I would date in the city
Right.
because we were together 24/7 for a week. And I think that worked very well for us. For some people, that could be too much because some people prefer long distance because they don't want to be with their partner all the time and they really value their alone time. So that could be a pro and a con. Another thing I really liked is that we planned a lot of things doing together.
Mhm.
And because we lived together, so it was constantly like planning things to do. But also, you have a glimpse of how it would be to live with that person.
Right.
So that you see that person throughout the whole day, throughout the whole week. You see them in almost every situation possible. Now, that could be challenging with starting that way from the beginning, right? Because right from the beginning, it was like living together half the time.
Right.
It could be intense for some people. So that can also not be something that positive. But I also liked it that I had time with him. And then separately, I had time with the girls and I just focused with the girls. And I did not have to engage with him a lot or too much.
Yeah. So for me, this was actually one of the challenges because in my case, um, we were we were monogamous in the relationship, the one that I'm referring to right now. And what wasn't clear to me or to him was when are we going to see each other. Like the planning, we couldn't have clarity on, okay, when am I coming to your place? When are you coming to my place? And that put a lot of stress on me because I was, let's say, let's say we're together this weekend, and I know that I am heading back home on a Monday or on a Sunday. I have no idea when I'm going to see him again.
And I think that's one of the things that we need to talk about. What's important for a long distance relationship to work is to always know when is the next time you're seeing that person and for how long.
Right.
I think it's important to do that. With my ex boyfriend, what we did was before I left back home, we already scheduled our next trip together, our next time together. It could be either at his place. Sometimes he came to our place and you were at your boyfriend during that time. So he was able to come here. He also met the girls. But what I really liked that we did that, and then I was kind of like calm about when I'm going to see him. We also had kind of a rule that I don't think there were more than 2 weeks that we're not seeing each other.
Yeah.
So usually it was like a week and a half. I think the max that we haven't seen each other while we were dating was maybe 2 weeks. And that is kind of like stretching
Well,
it, but
that's not the case for me. I was, we were. This was a struggle because because of work's situation, we couldn't make this planning well ahead, and everything was like last minute. So I know nothing. I know nothing. I know nothing. I know nothing. A week passes. 2 weeks are passing. 3 weeks, and then okay, I'm coming tomorrow.
yeah, and it was last minute. I remember it was really last minute. You couldn't like plan far ahead.
Yeah.
And I think that was your guys' situation that made it a little bit stressful for you. I don't know if for him, but for you, I remember you were very stressed
Yeah,
about it.
I was extremely stressful, living in the unknown. If we would have like put a plan, okay, we're gonna see each other in 4 weeks. That's fine.
Yeah,
I get it. I can live with that. But the not knowing, like the unknown, for me was like the most challenging one, and obviously it put a strain on our relationship. I mean,
yeah.
I was more stressful, and he became stressful, and yeah.
How was your communication while you weren't together? Because I think it's also a key part to a success of a long distance relationship is what happens when you're not seeing each other. What was the frequency of your communication? Did you do FaceTiming? Was it only calls? Was it only texts?
No, so it was a combination of. It's actually interesting because it's a combination of texts like throughout the day, but casual text. Hey baby, wishing you a great day ahead, or how was your lunch? Something casual. Just for a few minutes to check in with each other, and then when we have time, okay, let's do a quick video chat to say hello, or sending a video. Again, normal, not sexual videos. It wasn't my thing. Um, so I think that you can really develop from that perspective. You can really develop uh, closeness with
Yeah.
someone, even if there is no physical in-person meetup. I mean, you can really find yourself in a relationship that is just revolving around texting and video chats.
Yeah.
I actually had another case, uh, which was shorter, and I found myself. We actually haven't met. We just met virtually, and so we texted each other, and we've been on video chats a lot, and it felt like a relationship.
Yeah, it could
It
be.
felt like a relationship. It felt like I have a boyfriend, and with that particular person, I mean, it was a short period of time. He was living out of the country. Um, so I actually haven't seen him in person. Crazy.
So it's crazy that you say that because I have a friend from Instagram. We've been talking for a long time. He lived in Canada. He was married to a woman. He had 4 kids, and he met someone from Australia, and they've been talking for almost a year. And they used to FaceTime all the time. They used to do videos all the time, even together. It was really, really beautiful to see it on Instagram. And then they saw each other, I think, almost a year after they started their relationship. And sometimes, when you meet someone in person, that might not feel the same as you would think, right?
Right. Yeah.
Sometimes you talk with someone for so long, and I had that before. I talked with someone for a long time. He didn't live in this state, and then he came to Miami. I met him, and then I did not feel the same chemistry. I felt in on the FaceTime and the video chats. But what happened with the Canadian guy, he recently moved to Australia and now they're very happy together. And that was 2 years of long distance relationship. And we're talking about Canada, Australia. We're not even talking about within the US in different states.
Yeah. So I mean, there is a risk, right? So I think there are two big elements that have to be checked, assessed, if you can continue to like a long term relationship. And the so okay, I'll break it down for us. So the first one is, okay, you're chatting with someone. Okay, great. You can have a sense of how good the chat is over any platform. You can just text and feel the chat is good and so forth. So this part can be done from the beginning, even virtually. The second thing is to see how he looks and to how he talks, to hear his voice. This is something that you can do on video. Great. So you can really develop a relationship by using, by tackling these two elements, chatting and the sound of the voice, the energy, virtually. But in order for a long-term relationship to really evolve and develop, you need to see him in person, you need to see the chemistry, and you need to also have sex.
Of course.
Sex.
Yeah.
So sex is a big thing. What happens if everything is like good, 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 and then the sex is horrible? You probably wouldn't continue.
But that's the difference
So
between.
wait, I'm just gonna say something about that. Based on that story, of the person that was in a relationship with someone from Australia, and they haven't met. I'm happy that eventually it was an amazing experience for them. But what would have happened if after a few months they would meet and something wouldn't click the same? It's a heartbreak.
I agree. And it's different because when I met my ex boyfriend, I met him in person and we had sex actually the same day that we met. So
You
we
met
knew.
and had sex.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
it's a
then
must.
it was so good and we had that connection that
You had another sex.
Yeah.
And another
Okay.
sex.
And I think also, when we were apart, obviously we did not have sex, right? But then when we were together in that week, we compensated on the lack of sex for that week and a half, or sometimes even 2 weeks without seeing each other. So I think we need to think about a few things if we want a long distance relationship to work. If you meet that person in person in the beginning, that's easy, right? You feel the connection, you feel the chemistry. But then if whenever you're both at your own place and you're not seeing each other for a while, you need to plan when is the next time you're going to see each other. And it has to be in a timely manner, not like in 2 months or 3 months. Also, I would say as a tip, before you leave each other, already plan when is the next trip, even book the flights if it's a flight distance.
Okay, what are you saying? Like in my situation, in one of these long distance relationships I had, this could have not be done because of work.
Yeah.
Work was like last minute. What could I have done differently? So are you saying that this is like doomed
Yeah.
for a failure?
I think it was doomed for a failure unless if there's a work situation. Also, my ex-boyfriend, he worked from the office. He couldn't work from home. I could work from home. So it was easy for me to just stay the full week at his place, but he couldn't come as frequently as I did. So it was mostly the toll was on me to visit him, and he did not come as much.
That's another
here.
good point.
Yeah.
It only can work, when you can work from home
Yeah, exactly.
or remotely.
Or remotely, or have, I don't know, a week on, week off with work. Some jobs have that. But I think it's important that if you have a situation where you cannot see each other very often, I think the only solution for it to work is for someone to move where the other person lives. And I think in general, you have to speak about what is the future plans. You have to talk about the future plans. Now, I'm not saying move for someone after 2, 3 months, right? I think you need to date, I would say, at least 9 months. I mean, or
So
even a year.
you're saying in essence that in that long distance eventually needs to become a regular relationship where both people live in the
Yeah.
same place.
Unless you both see relationship in the same way as we like to meet once in a while. We're still committed, we're still a couple, but we like that each one has their own life wherever they are. We meet every month, every 2 weeks, and that's going to be our relationship. And so for some people, that could work.
Right.
But you have to be both on the same page.
So you know what happened to me? I within a few months of the relationship, my boyfriend said, "Okay, I'm moving to Miami."
Do you think he moved for you, or he would have moved without
So
meeting you?
so I said, "Absolutely not. You are not moving to Miami. You stay where you are. I'm not taking responsibility and accountability. We just, we are
Yeah, we were. You were in a long time together, anyhow.
we were
A few
we were
months.
a good few intense months together. But I said, if if you come over here, then it puts me in a situation where I would have less options, ethically with my, with my own, like if the relationship, I don't want to be in a relationship just because he moved for me, right? So I told him, no, don't come here. No, please don't come. And he told me something else. He said, hold your tits. Aiden, not everything is around you. I am moving to Miami because of me. Because I decided to move to Miami.
And I think that's important. I think if you're moving after a short a while, like not like when you are sure 100% this is my dream guy, this is the one I'm going to marry, you have to make sure that you need to understand you might move, the relationship might end, and you have to be at peace with that.
Yeah, so
You cannot move just for someone.
maybe I should send you to him because he's not at peace. He moved
Yeah,
before he moved. Before it's a process to move. You need to find a job, but before he moved, we broke up.
but he moved here, right?
He moved. So just before, so he was working on the process to move, and doing all the different activities like finding jobs, finding a place, actually moving. But before he finished the move, we broke up.
And do you know what's going on with him right now? Now that
Uh,
he lives in Miami?
yes, yeah. I mean, we are in some kind of communication.
Is he
I
happy with the move?
I don't think so.
Okay. And so it's okay that he's not happy with the move, but he shouldn't blame you for this because obviously he knew that this relationship might end. You weren't like year and a half together. It didn't get to a point where you were like, okay, we're getting married. It didn't get to
Yeah,
that
I mean
point.
the last text that I sent him, I said like, "Hey, how's it going?" And he responded, "I'm sorry." He responded, "Miami sucks. It's horrible here. How are you doing?"
Well, I can tell you Miami doesn't suck. So if people want to move here, they should. And
So obviously, I got a sense that he was, blaming me. But I mean, my conscience is clear.
that's the most important thing.
I made it very clear that I am not ready for him to move because of the relationship. I am not in a place where we that I can commit to something like that, and that's what happened. We eventually didn't make it through.
Look, I was open to move to where my ex boyfriend lived because I liked where he lived. I also like got along with his friends and everything. But in our situation, we cannot just move wherever we want because we have kids. If
Yeah.
I want to move, you also need to want to move to that city. So in our case, it's a little bit more complex because we have kids. Another one just to move the kids from one city to another. So in order for that relationship to work, he had to move here.
Yeah. So like, it's like I'm using it as a joke. When I'm talking to someone on on the dating apps on Hinge or in the past in Tinder, and I was approached by someone that lives out of the country and he's visiting here, right? So there was a connection. There is like a mutual like, and we're getting into a conversation. And I start by saying, hey, what's it, how are you doing? I'm looking for a relationship. What about you? He says, yeah, I'm also looking for a relationship. I'm visiting from the UK. So I go, okay, when do you move to Miami? Because I'm not looking for a long distance relationship. I'm looking for someone in person. And he goes, oh, I don't know if I can do it, but maybe you can come to the UK. And I go, sure, I can come. We just need to find a job for me, a job for my ex-husband, and schools for my daughters. So let's find out, when we can do that, and I'll move to the UK.
Okay, so let me ask you this. Can long distance relationship work? What do you think? Would you be open to a long distance relationship if it was the right guy for you? Sparks, this is my person. What needs to happen in order for you to consider actually getting into a new long distance relationship?
So I think that what I would need. So obviously, it has to be like a great guy, right? So what we're putting, what considering that this is the case, we're talking about a great guy.
I'm talking about husband material. If we lived in the same place, we'd probably get married.
So I think the biggest thing is to feel secure in the relationship and to get an understanding of how often we see each other, if that's possible. I think that another thing that is important is sex. That's another question. Are you doing a customized relationship, an open kind of relationship, monogamous relationship? Because if it's a monogamous relationship, and there is no clarity on when are you gonna see each other, there is another element of strain that is being added to the package. So I think you need to tackle these points. Like, okay, how often are we seeing each other? How much in advance can we schedule this? Are we doing something that is open, that is closed? What is the type of? Yeah, so I guess there are many questions that need to be put in place in order to to feel comfortable with that. And also, like you said, a plan. Okay, so for how long are we doing it? So for example, if I would be seeing a guy that also is has kids and he's not able to move for a good few years, do I see myself like in this long distance for how long?
Yeah.
For a year, for 2 years, for 5 years,
Yeah.
for life?
And I assume you do not look for a permanent long distance relationship. You would want to eventually live together.
So I think that everyone is different, but
Yeah.
I think if I'm talking about myself, yes, I need to be with a person. I'm looking to be with a.
Yeah.
I'm open to start a relationship that is long distance, but with clarity or with a path
Yeah. I
for.
think I think it's easier if it was someone I think it's easier if it were someone from the States and not outside of the country. I mean, also, if it's Canada, if it's somewhere close, I mean, I think it has to be close time zone,
Yeah,
not
maybe.
a really long flight, so you can actually see each other more frequently. Because if I would say it's something within 2 3 hours flight, the flights are cheap, it's quick to get there. You can even do short, quick trips here and there every weekend, every other weekend, something like that. I think again, in order for the long distance relationship to work, you need to frequently see each other, communicate when you're not together very well, talk, FaceTime, text, and there has to be trust. Because I remember that in some instances within my relationship, I felt some anxiety while we were apart. It felt like when we were together, everything was amazing, went well. But when we were apart, I was like, okay, what is he doing? Um, I mean, we're monogamous, we're not monogamous. I mean, I didn't really know, not all the time, but at some instances within the relationship, I had some anxiety, and it shouldn't be like that. There had to be trust. We need to talk about everything, what's allowed, what's not allowed, and making sure that there's a future plan. And I think the future plan needs to be in a foreseen future, not, I don't know, let's wait 2 3 years, right? Is there a plan to move if someone needs to work and at a certain industry and find a job?
If
They
someone, but if you ask that, someone might tell you, hold on, let's find out if this works.
No, I'm saying you can date for a year and say, okay, I think a year is a good time to figure out if this is going long term or not.
So the way it works for me, I would answer that question if I'm talking to a guy who would tell me, if I'm going to ask him, okay, let's talk about a long term, you know, relationship. Are we going to be together at your place, at my place? Like, what's the plan? And he would tell me, wait, Aiden, hold on, let's find out if this actually works. My answer to him is, let's assume best case scenario, this relationship works. Let's assume that we are together, we're having fun, everything is in place. What are our intentions? Let's assume, talk about, in just envision. Tell me what's your, so that, I think that's like that's a way to try and get some thoughts into, or start to think about actionable steps, even when we're still assessing the relationship,
Yeah.
right? Because I think, for myself, I can tell you that I would not be satisfied if someone will tell me, oh, hold on, let's just find out if the relationship is good. No, I'm giving you my heart, and I would like to give you the heart if I know that there is a path for that. I don't want you to, in a year, tell me, oh, you know what, we love each other so much, but there is no option for us to, like, to be physically together.
Yeah.
So I would love to know about that in advance and get into a relationship that is like that with my eyes open.
I will tell you my rule of thumb. If the only issue you have is the distance, I would fight for it. Because with my ex boyfriend that I had long distance with, he, you know, he did not.
Say it, you can do it.
No, I was saying our problem was not just the distance. Yes, the distance was there, but we didn't break up because of the distance. So in my eyes, a long distance relationship can work because it did work for a while, and I was fine with it, and I think he was fine with it to some degree. But then we had other issues that overshadowed that. So then when you have some issues and then add to that the distance, then okay, so we can just let that go because there are too many issues, and distance is a big issue. But if I would meet someone and the only issue is the distance, I think it is workable future wise because you can find a job somewhere else. If someone is really important for you, and he's that person, you're a perfect match. You're perfect for each other. There's no perfect person, but there's a perfect person for each other. And the only issue is the distance. I would do anything for this relationship to work, and I would somehow make sure that we can eventually move in to the same place, to the same city,
Would
to
you consider
whatever.
moving? I mean, your kids are here, right? In Miami. Would you consider moving away from Miami, uh, away from your kids?
No. And by the way,
Okay, so
this is what, for example, the guy from Canada did because he left his 4 kids in Canada. But what I'm saying is that if that person is my person, I might try to convince you to move with me and move the whole family together, and maybe I could find you a boyfriend there too, so you'll have an
you
incentive to
need to
move.
find me a boyfriend.
Maybe.
Okay. Okay, so find one.
Yeah,
Find
that's
one
true.
here. Let's start with finding one here,
No, you're right.
and then
You're right.
let's work on finding one for me in a different
I
city.
just think that long distance relationship can work for some people, and for some it cannot work. And I believe that it's so hard to find someone that is perfect for you that you have that chemistry and that sexual chemistry and that bond and that connection and that compatibility, it's so hard to find that even if you find it far away from you, if it's not too far away, if it's doable to do a long distance relationship with meeting each other enough for a while, for at least a year, and you can live with that, I think it's worth it.
Mhm. I hear you. I would say just on the flip side of that, that I am aware of, I know different people that are found themselves uh, in a relationship that is long distance without a plan, and I don't think that they are content with that. So you can really, I think
It's risky.
it's risky because you can find yourself like really really connected to that person, like a normal relationship, like a regular relationship, and but there is no the discussion about moving in together does not happen or cannot be conducted, and they are, you know, passing the life in that way, and they are seeing each other every, whatever
Yeah, it's more of a situationship than a relationship, to be honest.
but they feel that they are in a relationship.
I know, but this is where you should really talk about it with your partner, with your boyfriend, with your other half. You have to have a clear plan and a clear timeline. And that timeline can deviate, but you have to have the same intention and to work towards that.
Yeah.
But you know what's the positive thing about having a long distance?
What is? Tell me.
If you break up, you don't have to see him around in the city
Okay.
or the bars. It's like, okay, he's there. I'm not going
unless
to bump into him
unless
on
he
the
moved
street.
unless he moved to Miami, not for you.
That's true. Well, that also happened before. So that's all the time we have. So thank you guys. Tell us if you had any long distance relationships and if that worked for you or if it didn't work for you. If you are in a current long distance relationship, maybe you have some tips for us and for our audience, and we can share them in the future episodes. Don't forget, write us a 5-star review on all the platforms, and also you can subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us. It will be easier for you with all the podcast platforms. Follow us and be notified about future episodes. And don't forget, we are
Better
better
together
together
apart.
apart.
See you guys. Bye
Bye.
bye.